Welcome back to some high level beyond all reason, with 16 commanders loading into flats and forest, 8 per side, but only 1 required to claim victory in this one of the largest competitive formats in real-time strategy. And speaking of claiming victory, it'd be awesome if you could help me claim one by smashing that like button and maybe even subscribing. Jimmy, what are we? 300 likes on this video, on this cast, and I'll cast another one. And I've been enjoying it a lot lately, so probably do it anyways. But thank you for watching. Hopefully, you've had a good day so far, and hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better. Before things heat up any more than they already are, we'll go over the basics. The most important resource you must acquire, metal. You can see the combined team counts over in the top right corner. Metal per second, energy per second, used to put all that metal together, used to construct buildings, build units, and to an extent fire weapons. Build power is how quickly you can build those units or buildings. More build power, as long as you have the resources, means you build faster. That's why in Beyond All Reason, usually you see one single factory, as opposed to a bunch of them you might see in Age of Empires or StarCraft. Now, also, the counters, metal produced and energy produced. That's throughout the entire game. Gives you a pretty good idea of which team is ahead. Same with army value, as well as defense value. Defense value being turrets and static defense of other kind. Army value, units you can move across and ruin players' day with. And then, of course, economy value. How much you've invested in energy and metal production. And then just damage overall, which doesn't necessarily translate into the lead, but usually better to do more damage than less. So now, as both sides move towards the midline, and it does get a little hard to keep up with what's going on in 8v8, so forgive me. I've adjusted some camera settings, I've tried a few things, and I'm gonna try to keep up, give you the overall picture, but find some interesting stories as well. But for those who don't know about the ranking system in Beyond All Reason, the colors are not random, but instead based on ranking. The most primary of colors is the top player on the team, red versus blue.
So it begins.
So we have Zhao Midong as our ranked 61 player on the blue team. Pro High Gain is ranked 53 for the red. In the yellow /Corin, the orange is 8D Gun. The hot pink /Magenta, 46. God Hates Cowards. And then Ridiculous, Meow Cat Meow, Feelthus, and Wink. On the blue team, Pyrotech, Neza, the Admiral, Radar, the Eno, MDXD, and Letters. So, the board is set. We're 5 minutes in. Both sides are going towards the center, and on this map, Flats and Forest is pretty on the nose with the description. But it's a wide open map. There's no water. The energy for wind, pretty good, not great, but wind turbines still quite efficient. Looks like mostly bots are the choice. Not seeing any vehicles. I take it back, Zombie Dong, as those Armada blitzes all ready to start, and is using them to press forward. We can just get the full overview for a moment. Looks like High Gain also went for the vehicles. Vehicles much stronger overall, but more prone to being outmaneuvered or overwhelmed by the bots if they commit too far. So, the split between what your lane partner on the other side is doing, what your teammates are doing, and what you're most comfortable with is pretty open on this map, where going for bots or vehicles can end up being a winning play. I would say vehicles have a higher risk, but also higher reward because of how strong they are. Whereas bots, you can fill in almost anything. Speaking of which, the Ticks brawling it out. These little engagements, the Ticks able to trigger a lot of flanking damage as well. So even though they're tiny, just because they're small doesn't mean they aren't effective. Coming in for another round, going right through the missile tanks, trying to target them down. But overall, not making so much progress as the Ticks strike back immediately from radar. The center line being pushed by both sides. The top players adjacent, but not directly across from one another. Some of the pawns making it through. The grunts outranging them from the Cortex, but both tier 1 bots roughly equivalent. In 1v1, Cortex seems to be more popular because it has usually the pure strength and range, whereas Armada is usually a bit faster, but less reliable. So Armada has a lot of those units that can maybe exploit a gap in the enemy lines. But in 1v1, well, there's no teammates to fall back on. Oh, actually a lot of progress being made by Meow Cat Meow. Already into the forest. Dino unable to respond quickly. And just make our way down the lines here. Feel this, exchanging fire with the missile tanks, just trying to repair. Meow already further on. Has to be careful not to get outflanked. 8D gun, pushing his commander up. Pyrotech trying to build some of the higher level turrets to keep things at bay. High gain. Quite an extended line here, as is Zalmidong, and ridiculous as the turrets come up. Definitely not something that can't be beaten, especially as Saskor chasing. Hello, Neza. We could have our first commander exchange. Still 8 commanders per side as the first tier 2 vehicles come out. As they're going to back off. Both these players have special helmets. I believe that means they've won tournaments before. So clearly, some more experienced and probably maybe frenemies. I'm not going to say friendly, but frenemies seems to describe at least half the community at the highest level. The D-gun's coming in. The commander down to 50%. Neza willing to bring it in. And Saskor is committing. There he goes, but not enough. 4%, which is 3% more than he needed. The grunts are trying to make the trade, but a straight-up win for Neza down the center. Meanwhile, dozens of rocket bots exchanging fire. There is a heavy laser turret, which outranges the rocket bots technically, but can only fire one at a time. Any other lines being pushed. Quite a brawl happening to the south. 8 to 7 commanders, but at this stage, the commander not a huge deal. Well, still a huge deal to have. You don't want to lose it for free, and the explosion could completely screw you and break the lines. But are those? No, still tier 1 missile trucks, artillery tanks, but the thugs are moving forward. And the commander's not moving very fast. He's trying to throw some D-guns out, but he doesn't have the range. The front lines are being overrun. And, well, so dangerously close. If he explodes here, he's going to take out a lot of his own defenses. Has to retreat entirely. Looks like high gain. Oh, ridiculous with a ridiculous play. He broke through the front, but he won't make it far enough to take out the commander. There are tier 2 units already out. Some Mauser artillery, the tier 2 vehicle plant on the front lines for the blue team. Meanwhile, got another trade, but not quite enough. The commander counts 7 to 6 right now in favor of the blue team. But very key, Zalmidong is able to reclaim the metal on the field. That's what happens when you trade a commander there. And overall metal production, about even for both sides. Metal produced, but high gain is forced back entirely. Massive push coming from Radar, getting almost all the way to the tier 2 vehicle plant. The artillery being overrun for now. The brutes trying to get into the static defenses. Okay, Beamer. Targeting the construction. There's a tier 2 construction bot here, probably the most valuable thing besides the plant itself. But making some progress. Neither side quite comfortable with the position. Ooh, wrong button there. Dino. Wow. It looks like a Frackle down at the south was taken out by Fealthus. And now? Neza managed to get the geothermal, one of the most efficient sources of energy, but limited to the geothermal locations. I believe there are 2 on this map. It looks like D-Gun for the red team has that, and also a little bit of air coming out. The Admiral as well, as Neza closing in on God Hates Cowards. The commander retreating back 15%. The pawn's getting close. D-Gun preemptive. The push is broken for now, but reinforcements coming in. Wink trying to shore things up. As we see Zalmadong moving forward. Shurikens to stun the artillery tanks. As neither side... It's important to note, we can see from the observer perspective, how much is going on. But when you look from the vision of the players, the map is a lot darker. So you can only see up to the edge of the lines and maybe a little further depending on what sort of units and tanks you have. Radar vehicles, radar bots, and radar itself have a lot of vision range and are usually used to provide it. On top of the fact they also provide radar in general, which can be jammed or blocked by things like the radar jammers that Pyrotech has. Players asking for transports in order to move around both usually your construction bots to get in between your metal extractors quite quickly, but also occasionally for things like commanders or tanks to close the distance way quicker. Air transport are the fastest ways to get around. I mean, that's pretty realistic. But it appears the front lines are almost broken, as Meowcat Meow is meowing down everything in front. The green lines barely holding for now. He's got multiple Tiger tanks, Tier 2 Cortex. It appears a slowdown in the front. Zalmadong has 6 construction turrets. He's already queued up 6 fusions, spreading them out so they don't chain react, but a huge amount of energy production already queued up for the blue team. What is the total overall? The energy income is slightly in favor of blue, while metal income keeps kind of shifting back and forth as both sides continue to reclaim. Tier 2 bot lem. At this point, most of the teams should have they should have access to Tier 2 income. So overall, Zalmadong's income plus 82 metal. His counterpart High Gain is looking at, I believe, plus 70 to 80 out of metal extractors, and then anything extra is teammates sending or reclaiming. Blue team fighting back to the south. The Tier 1 tanks, but Tiger tanks going to obliterate these Tier 1 units if they're not outright swarmed. So he's got some maces there, but that's not going to be enough. Meanwhile, an Air Force heading down the center. A whole bunch of bombers on a run. There's very limited anti-air. They're going straight for the Tier 2 vehicle plant. They're going to take out the construction turrets, which will soften it up. And there's so little anti-air, it looks like the bombers are going to come around for another pass. In fact, they're just targeting the fusions. Is there enough damage? Takes out one. But he planned ahead well. He ended up spreading them out enough. Wow, already one player attempting to resign to the south. They're straight up not having a good time over there, but I don't think we're quite there yet, as the overall resource counts are almost dead even. As with a bunch of ticks trying to shore things up. The vehicle plant survives, one fusion taken out, and that was a costly bombing run. They're not very costly in terms of metal, but they take a lot of build power to produce. Every unit. So it's important to note that not every unit, 100, oh no. Oh, almost losing the commander to the geothermal explosion. But the bomber's coming in. So not every unit that costs 100 metal takes 100 build power. That's just throwing numbers out there. Some units might take 200 build power, they might take 500. There are different numbers for each one for balance reasons. So bombers are one of those units that they take not too much metal, but a lot of build power, so that way they don't build up too quickly. But eventually you can get these sort of runs set up. And the Tier 2 bombers are quite tanky. A lot of them getting taken out of the sky, finally, by the multiple fighters from Orange, but man, wow, just shut down. It won't explode unless it's finished, but just shuts down another fusion before it can even start. D-Gun rebuilding. The entire southern flank has broken, as Meowcat Meow is now able to meow his way through. Okay, we already used that one. But the ticks in response, the Tiger tanks looking to roll up the economy. And this is usually the beginning of the end. Or the end of the end, depending on how demoralized the team is. But if one entire flank breaks and they're able to just get behind and potentially take out the entire economy, obviously bad things are going to happen. So, the tanks are moving through. A Tsar involved as well. Zhao Midong coming down. The top tier player forced to respond to this. Energy being sent from his teammates as he goes for a gantry. Tier 3 unit production is on the agenda. He's actually salvaging his vehicle plant in order to get this gantry and going to try to rely on Tier 3 to save the day. So far, the push continues. Sheldons and Tier 1 bots alike. So far, not breaking through. The Tsar being overrun. So the red team will be held at bay for now. And there's a lot of artillery moving forward. A lot of Tier 2 tanks on the high ground. Quite a grid of wind turbines and some fusions. Overall, metal production, metal produced, starting to tilt towards the red team, as is damage, army value, and defense value. So it's going to take a dramatic turnaround, like, for example, Tier 3 units. He's going for Marauders, which are actually kind of similar to their StarCraft 2 counterparts, as a medium tier, well, in the late game, serving a very similar purpose as kind of a semi-raiding / brawling unit. They're relatively squishy. A big difference is they do have a pretty decent anti-air option. Wow, this entire push getting pushed back by, it looks like just ticks. Overall, the ticks are swarming. And without the fiends coming in, the fiends finally going to be able to deal with some of them. But the Sheldons and Thugs really struggling to actually find success. He needed the fiends a while ago, so this will push back the push for now. Meanwhile, the tanks have rotated around to the front lines, but there's enough static defenses to keep them at bay. The grunts on the run, as the laser tanks enough to chase. The Marauder count being built up. There's no vision. The Junos. A Juno to disable radar. Is it time? The Marauders are building up. The battle's still happening to the south. I think he's just going to wait until the last possible second. Like right as the enemies are breaking through. And by that I mean that it must be this second. That's what I'm getting at. All right. The Marauders on the march. Backs off. Everything tilted towards the red team now. Not dramatically so. They've shored up the breach to the south. 2 players have left, as they no longer have really their commanders or any units, and it appears that the rest of the team has not shared any with them. But here come the Marauders, about to break through the front lines. There's no vision of them yet. The Junos are landing. This will be the first notification. They don't know that there are any Tier 3 units out there until this moment. They're breaking through into the front line. And what is the response? There's mass spotlight. So many ticks to deal with this. Are the ticks going to be enough to turn the Marauders around? How many ticks are on the field? 120. But the Junos actually destroy ticks instantaneously. Those anti-scout, anti-radar missiles. And the Marauders are bashing through. Ridiculous sending out a notification that he is indeed dead. And crushing through the front line. The response is slow in coming, as almost nothing is as fast as these units. At least nothing that can contest it. The Bull tanks trying to chase down. But it's all on the line here. He needs to break through and do critical economic damage to retake the momentum in the game. And you can see the blue army crushing through the center. will obliterate such a huge chunk of the economy. Not enough yet to even things out. But the army value is now in favor of the blue team, and that is the only thing in favor of the blue team. But if there was one thing you could choose, well, I think it's on the short list. Meanwhile, still trying to break through the south. The bleeding has stopped for now. Static defense is there. The Marauders are quite squishy. They're fighting the Shurikens trying to stun them, but there's not enough. The construction turrets take it out. He's not able to save the base. There's an advanced fusion at point-blank range. More Shurikens coming in from the north, combining. Down goes the base. The advanced fusion will fall as well. Gotta be careful not to be too close. It has quite a radius of destruction. There it goes, and the chain reaction wipes out a lot of the rest of the economy. Meanwhile, though, oh, sharpshooters to the north side. And now, oh, another group. High Gain's commander coming back to help D-Gun. The air is coming through. Looks like the counter fighters were able to intercept and bring it down. But the push continues through the center, while the front at the south has been stalled. High Gain clearly moving in to respond. It's 5 commanders to 3 at the moment. The red team with the advantage, but all that matters is 1. The Marauders heading north. And there's nothing that can chase them. Really living up to their names. The Marauders battling through. Meanwhile, the northern front has stalled entirely throughout this whole game. There are 5 Tsars. And a few mammoths as well. But they're getting pushed back down the hills. The Marauder force still finding damage. Shurikens being spammed out, a few of them being stunned. But he gets the construction turrets. And the production will be shattered. The Marauders may eventually be stopped, but at what cost? And now the metal per second is starting to tilt back in favor of the blue team. It appears High Gain was able to either rebuild. I think he resurrected these. The res bots able to bring things back together as long as it wasn't destroyed by extraordinary means. So the res bots trying to salvage some of the economy. And the red team will take it back for now. 5 to 3 commanders. How are the Marauders not dead? Finally, how many brutes does it take? Apparently that many. What do we have here? Strategic bomber's gonna take out the fusions. They're just tier 1 fusion. He cloaks the commander. Make sure it isn't a target. Kind of important to still have at this point. The bomber's finding a huge run on the production. The gantry will survive, but none of the construction turrets and much of the energy will be taken out. And the run will continue. The anti-air, nowhere to be seen. Another beautiful carpet bombing run will take out most of Orange's production. He's not done yet. There's fusions. He's got a few fighters in front to help scout as the bombers have very little vision on their own. He's literally just doing a full carpet run, which you can do, I believe, by holding A and then dragging out a whole area. Trying to actually demonstrate with something. I believe I can. Yes. Though a lot of the times it will just do enemy targets. You can split it between, there's a lot of different control tricks you can check out, especially if you want to ask on the Discord as well, which I probably should learn better too. Razorbacks. The next level of tier 3. If Marauders were tier 3.1, this is like tier 3.5. And then Titans are like tier 3.15, but I digress. The Razorbacks, the true battle mechs, which is why they're called battle mechs as well. But a very rapid fire Gatling laser that's able to just chew through huge swaths of small units, and pretty good against large ones as well, because they're so fast they can get a lot of flanking damage. But speaking of Razorbacks, High Gain with some himself. The commander getting dangerously close. I don't believe there's any vision there. So a D-gun could wipe some of these out. He managed to resurrect some of the tier 3 units. Meanwhile, the battle continues, but the ticks are eating so much damage as the Shivas have been added in for the red team. The Quartet siege mechs up against the Armada, the faster but somewhat more fragile ones. The Shivas definitely have a bit of heft to them. I'm getting close to the production. Blue has mostly been stalled out, but that hit on the production by Blue has opened up the northern front. And the tier 1 units with a few welders mixed in pushing through. So quite a turnaround. But the commander count, only 2 left for the blue team, 4 for red. Rarely do these games get decided by straight up sniping the commanders, but we're getting there. More fusions on the way. The constant production across the front. The Razorbacks are called in to defend as the southern flank is breaking to the overwhelming weight of the Shivas. They continue forward. Razorbacks trying to respond, but against that many Shivas, I don't think they win 1v1, but 10v1? Oh, bombers. Ready to unleash, trying to wipe out some of the Shivas. There's almost no anti-air at all in this composition. Nothing here can reliably take down the bombers, but they take quite a while, and he's actually bombing his teammates' infrastructure as well. Friendly fire isn't. Meanwhile, the battle has shifted. Blue is in the top right corner, and across the northern front, red trying to stall things out at almost exactly the opposite location. Just for demonstration, for now. Oh, I don't know if there's a hotkey for this, but simple team colors. Just for reference. Oh, I should use that more. But metal production still within 10%, energy production or energy produced still within 10% as well. So no huge advantage. The economy infrastructure actually in favor of the blue team, as their total energy per second 24 to 21. Metal is mostly based on reclaim, as the wrecks of multiple armies are littered throughout the field much faster than either side can either resurrect or reclaim them. Juno's coming out. Blue starting to break through, but High Gain seems to have stalled the push with multiple Razorbacks. Oh, the Starlight Tachyon lasers. Long-range, single-target siege weapons. Very good for breaking through Tier 3 units, especially with dozens of grunts and pawns in the front. The brawl will happen on the ground. But those long-range lasers are helping to break through with the armies of expendable units on the ground in front. Are those? Those are bombers. He's looking for the fusion, and he's gonna find it. Coming in for another run. And if they're able to take out the infrastructure, well, eventually the production will break. But High Gain decides it's time to break the lines, pushing forward onto the top of the Starlights. And they're not retreating. Some sharpshooters at the back, but the Razorbacks are chewing through. It's not enough. There's just too much. An advanced fusion on the screen. Oh, the bomber's coming in. They've got a target. It's just a full carpet. A beautiful bombing run. Clearly making the difference. A Vanguard cannon. The long-range artillery. Here comes the commander. He's pressing the resign button as he goes forward. Despite the team having 4 commanders, he leaves the game. His teammate will take over, but it appears the blue team has held on. That Marauder push down the center cracked the bases open. And with it, like an overly expensive, though maybe normal price nowadays, egg. The efforts to the south were stalled out. The ticks dotting the field. The Starlights enough to chew through all those expensive units with so many hundreds, thousands of pawns thrown out. When it comes to the stats, the units killed in the thousands. 6,000, not the most dramatic I've ever seen, but shout out to Meow Cat Meow, who managed, well, Neza, I think, making several thousand ticks and continuing to this point, as he has the bot labs pumping them out right now alongside the bombers. So bombers and ticks, quite a support. Is that a Titan? Indeed. Zhao with a Titan. Some catapults coming out from Meow. Doing his best. He broke through, but not far enough. Both players struggling to move forward because there's so many wrecks on the field. I think they tapped out. The commanders resign, and with it, the base goes.
So that's how it ends.
So that's how it ends. Quite a turnaround. Especially on wide open maps like this. Somewhat rare that you're able to survive and turn around any sort of breach, because from there, it usually ends up working its way all the way from the south side all the way up to the north. But the choice to hide and then break through directly the front with the Marauders, making all the difference. And making quite a dramatic move. So, we see the production there. Zhao with plenty, the metal used, energy used, metal production. Overall, by the end, the blue team ends up with 8% more metal production. Wait, can we see that as a team over time? I'm not sure if I can combine all the teams on it, but clearly making the difference. So, and if you'd like, by the way, right over here, you can switch over. I saw a lot of comments on the voice thing, but thank you to the devs for letting me record one. I thought it'd be a lot of fun. So
Calamity is ready. Who's first? So it begins.
If you want to check it out, and you want more hours of the day filled with my voice. And speaking of, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you to the Patreon supporters, whatever they're for. Make sure to check out the main channel for StarCraft if you're into that. But otherwise, I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to like, subscribe, Patreon if you got the means and motivation. Remember, Beyond All Reason is free. It'll just cost your sanity. But being unreasonable is in the name. So thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Good luck. Have fun. Stay chill.